Hey, voices in the head. Yeah, let's just get right into it. So, first of all, uh, vibes. Yeah, no, that vibes are just a loose metaphor. You got it. I wouldn't even have used, I wouldn't have said, "Oh, you give off a bad vibe" myself anyway. But I gave the context as those comments, and the issue is that to me, I saw that video, and it's the most important thing to me was just pwning doesn't exist. You're trying to argue about how you pwn somebody, and it's all emotional and therefore super subjective. I mean, look at the whole, you know, ownage thing that's gone way overboard here. Right now, there's people that think, oh, this guy owned him because you know and then think, oh, but this guy owned him because look, closed his account. Yeah, who really owned the other? It's in the eye of the beholder. It's interpretation, like you said, like all communication. But vibes actually less so, because here's the thing: a vibe is it's a metaphor. It's using an energy transfer kind of metaphor for human affairs. Like he's giving bad energy. That's the vibe, the vibration, energy. And it is just a metaphor, but on the other hand, we do use energy to act certain ways. Other people get a certain impression. It's as if it gives them energy, but really the energy comes from their diet. Yes, but the brain reacts and uses that energy. And it's metaphorically, close enough for what we're talking about. Because now I'm not talking about, oh, I get a bad vibe from some bigotry or pet peeve of mine, or I don't like mustaches or anything like this. We're talking about taking joy in someone else's emotional breakdown. And that's why I did my best to make my criticism balanced. For example, I trying to make clear that, yeah, no, I think pro wrestling, it should be legal and people should do it. And yet also, yeah, I think we should laugh at it a little bit. I did my best to balance it like that without actually not giving the criticism because, you know, um, I'd like to just talk about the ideas, but my understanding is that you have psychological training and, people misbehave and have act like jerks because of psychological problems. And how on earth can you rejoice in making that more so? How can you not picture that, wait a second, if that guy really got emotionally unstabilized beyond his argument, um, then he's going to be an asshole out in the real world. You've just fucked the world up a little bit. And, it's not really your fault in a way, but it's sort of not the kind of thing you want to click your heels over. On the other hand, the way Coughlin described the pwning, yeah, just as, I believe in a certain being really blunt and the other guy stammers to a stop and has nothing more to say on the topic. But that's not the pwning thing, and the whole victory by making somebody else get emotional or close their account, it is uh, it's a dark atmosphere to that. I'm not saying it should be uh, illegal, or I'm not saying it's totally immoral. I'm not even saying I dislike you for doing it. I've gotten a lot of flame wars back when I first started online communication, and I worked my way through. And partly I'm talking about that. Um, it's a lot like the pro wrestling, less like boxing because boxing's legit, but very much like pro wrestling, where um, you know it is about bravado and bluster, and some leagues used to especially fake blood and it's fake. Boxing, not so much. Boxing's not fake, but there's still that kind of attitude in the marketing, so a little bit, but especially in pro wrestling. And yeah, it should be legal. But when I was a kid, they still didn't admit that it was fake. The pro wrestling, the major pro wrestling leagues. And of course, there's lots of leagues out there that are fake that still don't admit it. Um, and, they needed to be ridiculed and laughed at and until people didn't take them seriously, you know? So that people didn't take them seriously. Um, I need a way as a non-ponage participant to go ahead and make my complaint, my complaint, which, if I was into that kind of thing, would be some sort of ponage style to itself, but of course that won't work, if I want to speak against it. So, anyway, I definitely appreciate the response, the way you did it. You gave me a couple chances to clarify things. Um, I, um, I believe in making friends online. I've been online discussing things in this kind of form for over 20 years. Basically 25 years. In 1984, I got on bulletin boards. And I have met people, of all sorts of people, online. I have none of the hang-ups of it being weird, because it's literally in my, I have a friend from high school that I didn't know, except for we both met on, you know, a bulletin board. I still know him. A bulletin board being, what they used to have when you just dialed people's computers. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that. So yeah, I went way out of my way to, to say things, we pretty much agree with. It is cathartic. You can't really know what a real person's like, except for, here's the thing. It is inevitably a stage. Like you say, you're acting no matter what, even if you act natural. I act natural, and yet it's still a slice, and I still choose my background. Now, I intentionally am sloppy about that, and I don't prepare or have a particular background, but I'll make a video whenever I feel like making a video. But like you say, I still have to sit down somewhere, and I look around the place I am, and I try to, choose the most reasonable background. But it might just be because of where the table is, too. I might put up with a shitty background. And that's all because, yeah, I want a natural style. I want my stage to be set naturally. But it's just like, it's just a realistic looking stage. Looks real. It's actually still a stage. I agree with that. But vlogging is, I don't really like that word either. I kind of like weblogging or whatever, but it doesn't matter. The point is taking part in the, they'll call it something different 10 years from now, probably. It used to be bulletin boards and forums, and, and it was weblogging and video logging and, whatever. The point is this dialogue. It's the public debate. That is spread out to everybody now. We all get to take part in a public debate. And there should be a column. It should be people just talking about hobbies. It should be people playing ponage games if they want. But it's nice to get, related. What's most important? Um, what's most fundamentally interesting, I think. And I don't mind coming out and seeing that, but I do want to say something about it and about this ponage, and I want to put ponage down. I want to make fun of it and put it in its place. You know why? Because it's uppity. It thinks it's all that. I pwned you. You cried. Fuck you. If you're dependent, I don't mean you, Johnny. I mean in my hypothetical situation where I was starting to rant. Um, but what I was just going to say is, if somebody thinks that they pwned me, let's say I start crying. That would never happen. But anyway, I'm crying. Oh no. And he's like, I pwned you. Instant self-pwnage. If that guy, his happiness is linked to the ability to put me down and I'm worthless, he's fucking worthless. Strong people, and I'm sure you know this again, because, I said this to you and about you because disagreeing with you and Naomi, I know you're smart. I don't know a lot of the details of how you think, or didn't sure if you were going to rip into me, but I know you're smart, and so I know that people that are together, you know, don't actually uh, feel like winners.